Hello.
Welcome back.
You guys might notice we're actually in person.
We're in person. If you're on YouTube, of course. So shout out to our YouTube. If you're not already subscribed, hit that subscribe button, love. We are on YouTube, SOS with Molly and Alyssa. So please check us out because we are live in person and with a special guest.
Yes. Today we have Christopher Leon with us.
Hello.
Welcome to the pod. Chris, you just released an album this year. Well, last year, technically. Mm-hmm. But We're All Healing. You're a rapper with a lot of substantial lyrical content, which is what rap should be about. It's not always about that, but it's one of my favorite things about you as an artist. Yeah, it's poetry. And so we have you on today to discuss the making of this album. So it's called We're All Healing, and I know it's very like vulnerable and open, and it's just dives straight into just trauma. And I mean, the title really says it all. But first of all, I'm interested in your musical influences, especially rappers, like who you listen to and what you're drawn to when you listen to artists.
Growing up, I listened to a lot of Eminem. I listened to a lot of Bob Marley, and then on my indie side, I was doing some Tom Waits, some Nick Cave. So my uncle was really big into that, so I became really big into that. And so I think that growing up, my like inspiration kind of changed. I went off of like the lyrical miracle, like Eminem, and more into the creative, like Kanye West, Childish Gambino side. But the fact of the matter, like I have like Slim Shady like in my bones, you know. So it's kind of like, it's hard to like. He's a part of me, you know what I'm saying? Right. So yeah, he's always popping out somehow whenever I'm rapping. But that's who I love now. And now is Childish Gambino, Kanye, Mac Miller, Frank Ocean, all the greats.
I love that. And it's pretty, and it's all artists that have real messages in their songs. And that sounds like a no-brainer, but I feel like there's a lot of music out there that isn't really saying anything.
I think most of it is.
I agree with that. I was trying to be nice, but a lot of shit. So you can tell in your music that you actually listen to, you're influenced by artists who have there's a reason they're saying what they're saying. And
like the songs that you performed when I saw you live, those are from your album, right?
Yes.
That was maybe in the spring.
Okay, so no, those were different songs. Those were singles I released beforehand. Yeah, so I had a whole phase. The spring is actually like when I started the album, like for real. Yeah.
Okay.
Wow.
So that actually leads into, because I wanted to know what made you, like, did you go into making this album with the as a concept album, like I'm going to make an album about healing trauma, specifically a whole album about it, or did it kind of evolve into that?
It evolved for sure. When I first started working on it, I didn't know that I was working on it. And so I was just, I was like really going through it. Just super sad, super about everything. And so I was just making a bunch of songs that were, like getting getting everything out. And there's a song, the second to the last song on the album, it's called Shame. I was writing that when I was at a scary place, like a mindset. And so it came to be that whenever I was writing that, in my mind, I was like, if I ever did write a suicide note, what would it look like? Wow. What would it sound like? And so that song is that. Now, whenever I wrote it in my mind, because I'm always trying to think of like concept, I was like, okay, well, I made this. If I release this and then I was like gone, everyone would be like, what? How did you get here? Like, how did this happen?
Right.
Because I do a lot of like goofy skits and everything and stuff. So everyone's, sees me smiling all the time. So it's just, and so I was like, I need to explain to people how I got to this point.
Yeah.
And then that's how the album became the album, because it was really just that one song.
Yeah.
And then I just wanted to explain how I got to that.
That's so deeply vulnerable. And that's
Yeah.
amazing that you can get to that place, because there's so many artists that are still vulnerable to an extent, but to get to that level and be like, hey, I'm at my lowest and I want you to understand where my mind is at right now, because this is the best way I can express it. That is such bravery. And like, that's so amazing that you can do that and still remain who you are. You know what I mean? That's so amazing.
Do you think like, I mean, did you find it hard? So once you got to that point, you're like, okay, the rest of these songs need to explain how I got this low. While you were writing the other things, did you find it hard to be honest, even with yourself in the writing of it sometimes? Because that's really vulnerable and it's hard.
Yeah,
like,
you might want to like embellish and like not really
or
like go that deep.
Yeah. Like, did you wrestle with that at all?
So no. And the reason I have in the past, but that's because I wasn't to where I was, you know.
Right.
But with this specifically, I was really calling for help, you know, like trying to like talk to people. I was going through, trying to talk to my parents to figure stuff out. I was talking to my ex to try to figure stuff out. I was talking to my friends, and no one really knows your whole side of the story. And so for me, for this, I was like, I just need to tell the truth, because it's so hard for me to communicate. Like if you and I are having a conversation, I'm not going to tell you everything that's on my mind.
There are things you tell your friends, things you tell your parents, things you tell, and
then with this, I just wanted to, I just wanted to be able to, like, if you listen to this, then you will know like who I am and what is going on, you know? So I made it a point to be as honest as I could possibly be.
Like the full spectrum. It's like when you're watching a movie and you see the main character, you see them at lunch with their friend, but then you see them go home and you see what happens to them on the way home. And you see them at home, and it's like no one person in your life can see you in all your being, you know? So that's really cool.
Well, thanks. Yeah.
Do you find that same brave? Do you like get into that mindset too? Because I'm like, songwriting is so fascinating to me, because I'm just like, God damn, that's so vulnerable.
I think, it does feel like that, because it's like you're writing because you have to get it out. So it's like
a sneeze.
Yeah. Because it's like if you're writing something with the purpose of, with the mindset of like, I want to be seen this way, or I want to be heard this way, that's coming from a different place than when you're actually healing. You're writing to get things out, or to heal, or to express yourself. Because then it's like, nobody wins if I'm not honest, because I'm doing this for myself. But if I'm lying, what am I doing? But I have caught myself before, like saying things, maybe you have too, in a way where I'm like, there's a more real way to say this. Like, what am I really trying to say? Yeah. And then I just, to get to it, you know?
Yeah. I wonder if that's like also a perk of not, you know, being signed to like this big label, because isn't that like a huge influence? Like they'll want you to write your music a certain way.
Yeah.
And like you have the freedom now to just be yourself as much as possible. Like, I don't know. It's like a big music industry question that I'm always just fascinated about.
I know. And kind of like industry wise, especially in hip hop. So there's a song on your album called Trauma, and it opens up with the beginnings of a therapy session. And I know like in the mainstream, mental health in general is gaining more traction, but it's always been a bit of a taboo subject, especially in hip hop. And I know it's shifting, but I kind of wanted to know your perspective on that. Do you think that it has more, because this is a whole album centered around that. There's a therapist in the beginning of that song, and you're talking very openly about these things. And do you feel like it's shifting in the hip hop world, or more accepted, less taboo?
I think it's all of those things. I think it's being spoken more, and it's being accepted as well. I think that a lot of hip hop for a lot of people is putting on a front.
Yeah.
You know, everyone's always talking about how gangster they are, how rich they are, how, you know, yada, yada. And it's not cool to be vulnerable. Like, it's just not cool, you know? And so unfortunately, we've just because of that mindset, we've gotten to a point where it seems like so much is fake and superficial, surface level. And I really just think that with today's thoughts on mental health and it coming to the forefront a lot more, especially therapy. As a kid for myself, I would have never thought that a therapist was a thing. I would have never thought I would go to one, need one.
Right.
What is the point? You're just telling someone all your problems, but
you're not crazy, you know?
And it's therapy does help. If you haven't tried therapy, give it one shot. But yeah, I think that I'm hoping that if artists, such as myself and other people are able to be like, hey, it is hard out here.
Yeah.
And I can still rap cool.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Like I can tell stories about vulnerability while rapping. It's not going to
get like not cool. Yeah. Not good. Or, I'm not soft because of this. And like, who gives a shit if I am? It's like, it's still going to be good music at the end of the day. What was your reaction like from your peers? And did it differ from, with talking about therapy in your music? Like, did it differ from the reactions from your family as well, like to your music and that vulnerability?
Yeah. So I played it for my family and my friends and all that before it was coming out, and playing it for my friends was cool because we just had a big cry session, and they were like, "Oh, I didn't know that you were, it was like this." And beautiful. So it was nice to, it was nerve wracking. Every time I played this for someone, my anxiety was on 11, but it was nice to do it. And it made me feel like better being able to like talk about it, because I didn't talk about anything. Like my last relationship, I didn't tell anybody about like all the inside stuff, so it was me like talking for the first time, which was great. And then I played it for my family, and my brother and sister from the beginning, they got it. They were like, sorry, hug session, cry session, and played it for my parents. They didn't get it at first. They listened to it, but they were in shock, to be honest with you. They couldn't like digest all that stuff in one sitting.
Did they listen to the whole album at one sitting?
I played it for them, the whole thing. Yeah. Sat with them. Yeah. And, but then about a month later, like I performed it and my parents saw that, and then they got it then, just all the emotion that I was showing. Yeah. And so, it's helped in every aspect of my life, which is like amazing and something I wasn't prepared for. I didn't think, would happen, but I'm very glad that it is happening.
It's like there's something so powerful about actually letting people in, but it's like a lot of, I'm this way, and I think a lot of people are, but and in the moment that something's happening, it's not like I don't let people in. Like I deal with stuff kind of privately, and then later, so to have this moment where you're like, okay, I'm processing it, or have processed a bunch of it, and now I'm going to share these things with people I love. There's a lot, and then once it's received, it is it's such a beautiful thing to be able to share. And I think that people, I don't know, I feel like people need to give themselves a break, and like, it's okay if you don't want to share right away. And then when you do, though, it is a part of the healing process, right? Like having people you love hear what you've been through. Was that part of your healing as well?
I think so.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Because whenever you're inside of your head, you're like, you're alone. Yeah. And so, and so many of us, whenever we are like upset, depressed, going through something, we always think like, no one cares, talking about it's not going to help. Right. We all have problems. But talking about it does help, because even if they don't have the right answers, like at least that you have someone on your side, and and it just feels good. Yeah.
How was your ex's reaction to everything?
She has not listened to it. I don't think she ever will. No. No, whenever I was speaking to her, I was just speaking to her. Just trying to got it. Get over stuff, Yeah. But no, I don't think she's heard it.
Yes. Or if she has, you might not know.
Yeah.
But that's
yeah, that's wild. Because musicians that write about their, I'm like, oh my God. Yeah. Oh my God. This is about something spicy.
I also don't, well, this album seems more very specific, like it was to specific people or about specific things. What I was going to say is sometimes, I don't know if this happens to you with writing, but I'll be writing a verse and I'm thinking about like one person, for example, and then a certain line will come to me that actually is about someone else, but it's the same message in the song. So it's like a lot of times a song is about, it's not about one specific person, even if it kind of is. I don't know if that makes sense. Yeah. But also with this, it's with yours, I feel like, was it more, it was very specific. Like this is about what happened with this person or.
True. Yeah, it was so specific because it was just about me. You know?
Like a diary, basically.
Yeah. So it actually made as hard as it was to make the album, it was very easy to make it because I was just talking about myself.
Reality.
You know, so it was, it kind of went hand in hand. It was tough to get through, but easy enough to make.
Yeah. What would you say your biggest obstacle was in the making of it?
Did you want to quit? Where you're like, okay, this is too much.
Well, I mean, another thing. Well, I mean, once I started, I became obsessed with it. And so that's like all I could do. I went through about a 4-month period where I like didn't speak to anyone. I wasn't going out. I was in my room pacing and talking to myself. And so just I mean to get back out, because first of all, like going through the pandemic, we all went through that, and it was like traumatic, and we're all like alone and stuck in this house, and also stuck with people that we didn't know we would ever be stuck with, you know. And then once that starts to like rise, now I'm like going through this weird thing where I'm still not going out talking to people, and it was just it was like really wearing on me. And so just to get myself to like be open to going back out and hanging with friends again and saying like, sorry, I was gone for so long. You know, that was like the toughest part.
Yeah, I can relate to that completely. I mean, like the pandemic, I was like, oh, I need a therapist. Like this is the time for me to do some work because I just feel like pre-pandemic, I'm sure you guys as artists too can relate to this. It's just, I felt like I knew myself, but not really. I didn't have time to really sit with myself because I was working at a service industry
like big
job
enough chunks of time to really have to deal with things.
So I think there's just like beautiful art coming from the pandemic because artists specifically are sitting with themselves and being like, okay, I need to express what's going on. And I think that's amazing. What's your impression of the current mainstream rap scene right now? Because I don't know, I'm really old school in just the way I see music and absorb music and the artists I like, and so I have my own thoughts and frustrations about it. However, there's always gonna be incredible quality artists out there. It's a matter of like, but for the mainstream, like what's out there right now, what do you see in hip hop specifically that discourages you, and what do you appreciate?
Well, what discourages me? So I haven't really listened to mainstream hip hop in so long. I actually know exactly whenever I stopped listening, and that was the freshman cypher, and this was when like Yachty and Uzi and 21 Savage and
trap.
Like that whole, like as soon as that started going, I was like, oh, this is no longer like my wave, you know, like hip hop is no longer, you know, what I'm bumping. And it's just because I never really enjoyed that sound, and still I'm still not with the sound, you know, and that's what everything is right now, you know. So I don't pay too much attention to it. I'm still listening to my like swimming Mac Miller, because the internet, you know, like I'm that guy. Like this isn't music back in my
day. That's me. It's so, and I'm like, is this? I need it. Like people assume that like when you're an artist too, like I get asked all the time, oh, who are you listening to now? Like I'm just gonna be like up on the newest and I'm just like Erykah Badu, Otis Redding,
Sade.
Sade. Like But I find the same thing. Like, I'm not listening to what's playing now. And the irony is, like, I want my music out there now.
Yeah.
But I think it's kind of like beneficial to not, because whether or not you realize it, whatever you're listening to, you are absorbing.
Mm-hmm.
And if I'm the same way with like the rap, mumble rap and everything that's out there now. It's just like
music to like get fucked up to, and
like,
kind of escape, and not in the way that like
it's like mind
we
numbing.
escape or you guys escape. You know what I mean? And like especially with your art.
Yeah,
it serves a different purpose, and I think it's also trends. Like it can come back, like the old school shit that we like. I feel like it can come back
I know.
as well.
And when
like, everything comes in waves.
Lyrical, because when people are given authenticity, when people as in like listeners, for example, are handed something real and authentic, they will react and acknowledge it and see it for what it is and love it. That's why when someone really authentic and talented comes out, people go crazy because it's like, we're like hungry for something real, but we just don't realize it because all we're fed is trash. And then we will accept whatever we're given. So if we're just given a bunch of like fast food meals, we'll be like, all right, we'll just keep eating it. And then someone hands you like a full homemade Thanksgiving Day feast. And we're like, holy shit. Like we'll recognize it, but it's just, we're being like deadened. We're being like,
that's a great point.
I don't know. Cause I think like for you, your album, it's like, it's conscious rap. It's it's spoken word. It's poetry. It's like storytelling. And that's to me, the beauty in actual rap music. That's what that is.
And it'll never go away.
Yeah.
I don't think.
Right.
Yeah. I hope not.
It's not in the mainstream at the moment, but I see it coming back slowly.
Yeah.
But I really applaud like what you're doing and using it as the platform that I think was meant to be. Because it's really just like, you're just talking. You're talking to someone and giving them something to move to, but like really saying something. And it's rare, unfortunately.
Well, thanks a lot. I was really hoping that whenever other people like listen to it, they would be able to, I mean, of course, like you were saying earlier, like universal lines, like this line was said about someone else, but like you can put it to this person, I was saying, of course, I'm only talking about me, but I want people to see themselves in the situations that I'm talking about. And I do think that's very powerful.
Yeah, it is.
Like you were saying, you are like, you are what you listen to, what you consume. And there's so much like, it seems like people are wanting to kill themselves with like the way that they're like with the art that they're making, and I'm like not trying to do that. Like I'm on the opposite, like I'm trying to like save a life, and so I think that we just have to keep doing that, And
I think
no, you go.
Well, I think the more specific you are about your experience, like you write a song about something that's so specific to you, some people can think, well, no one could relate to this. This is something I went through. The more personal and specific it is, I think the more relatable it is. Even if it's like, oh, I haven't had that exact thing happen to me, but because he's being so raw about what it felt like, I have felt like that in this situation. You know what I mean? So I think the more...
And it gives it longevity too.
Yeah. Like being concerned with mass appeal is, I think, sets you back.
For sure.
Yeah. And then when you're just telling it like it is for you, that's a human experience.
It's dishonest at that point.
Yeah.
Did it ever discourage you? Like when you're writing music, and maybe you too, like, does it discourage you being like, well, I don't even know if what I'm writing is going to be consumable to the masses at this point, but fuck it, Yeah,
absolutely. No, I'm like terrified of that. Cause I mean, all I'm talking about is sad things, and people like, even though like it does resonate, people are sick of being sad.
Right. But Frank, you know what I mean? Like
true. No, very true. Very true. I just, my biggest fear is that it's a bummer, I'm not trying to bum everyone out, even though like it's the truth, but I think that's why, I knew this would never be like mainstream because it's not, but I just hope that people are like open to it,
And it sets the stage for your future projects. So it's like, you're not always going to be in that same mental headspace. So like you'll put stuff out that's more like people want to put it on at the pool parties in the summer. Like you'll have that stuff. And then when that comes out, they also have like a richer context of who you are because of this.
Yeah.
So it kind of,
I love that. Yeah.
yeah.
And I think, I mean, emo music's coming back. So like the bummer shit, like that, like people want to feel again, I think. So I think you guys are right on the money of like where, you know, because.
Nailed it.
Nailed it. Depression. Nailed it. I mean, you kind of answered it, but I was going to ask you, but you pretty much did, what your hope is for this album in terms of who you want to reach and yeah, like what your goal is. I know it's been out for a minute now, but like, what is your biggest hope for this project?
Yeah. So in 2 days, it will be 2 months that I released it. And I'm hoping that right now, my biggest goal is to perform this as much as I can for people. I honestly do think that listening to it is an experience.
Yeah.
And I think that performing it is also an experience.
Yeah,
and so,
you like take yourself through this whole mini like every time.
And it hurts every time.
Like it's making it worse.
I do. Yeah.
Great.
I do. Yeah, I want to have, I enjoy just having moments with people, you know, and a lot of people, whenever they listen to it, especially whenever they see me perform it, you know, come up to me and say like, can I have a hug? You know, like, I wanted this, you know, like I needed this tonight. And that means like a lot.
Yeah.
So I just want to have as many of those moments that I can have.
One person, like you could, I mean, it just takes one person that you change their mindset, you pull them out of something, you could save an actual life and you would never know necessarily. But that's what it is. Like you're already moving people like that. So it's serving its purpose.
I hope I keep doing it. Thank you. Yeah.
When do you kind of get, because this album was essentially your diary, like you're saying, do you feel like you have a lot of, I guess, shoes to fill or like a standard for your next album? You know what I'm trying to say? Like, do you feel like a pressure being like, well, now I have to be raw as hell, like every single time? Like, yeah.
Yeah. That's a very good question. And yes.
Want that sophomore slump.
No, I'm already like, I haven't even started the next project, but I'm already like intimidated.
Yeah.
Like already. And so it's, I feel like I opened up a door that I didn't know was a door. And now that I'm through the door, I can't like walk back, you know, I can't make some like, I got 80 chains on, you know, I can't make some like ridiculous, you know, I do feel like that, even though at the same time, you know, it is music and I would like to have fun, you know, at certain times, because
that can be as raw and real as this album though. The different emotion doesn't make it less real.
True. I think that the truthfulness is like, even though I'm cool with telling the truth, but to always make myself tell the truth is going to be tough in the future. Yeah. And that is a standard that like I set for myself. Like I don't want to be any less truthful than I am now.
Yeah.
So it's going to be tough, but I'm here for it, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you know,
So
like you put something like this out and then the fans that you gain just from this release, you know, it's so interesting as an artist because until you get to like Beyonce's level, she can put out whatever. She can put out a country album and she has it doesn't matter. And they're not going to be like, oh, you're a country artist. No, you're just Beyonce putting out a country album. But if you're a new artist or people are discovering you, they need something to attach to you. So if they're like discovering you with this album, there are things that they're attracted to you for a reason as an artist. And a lot of it, if they're coming from this album, it's like your vulnerability, your, you know, because as an artist, then you do think like, okay, what did I gain those fans for? Was it because they like the like sad content? Was it because they like how real it was? Was it because they like the
they think I'm cute
songs and want the down? Yeah. Like then it's like there's so many things that can go on in your head as an artist. Like you don't want to lose a fan base that just found you by putting something out that's so drastically different that they're like, oh, actually, I don't really know who he is. I don't relate to this. Yeah. It's like you want to take them on a journey as fans, but not create for anyone else other than you at the same time.
Yeah. Yeah, very true. I think one thing that I'm like hoping is that with this album, no matter what I make, people will still always know like who I am because like I'm still the same guy, you know? So I'm hoping that it just the more, as truthful as you can possibly be, all it does is like help you in the future, because then your fans know that you're not always going to be in this state.
Yeah.
You're not always going to be in this sound, you know, things like that. I'm hoping that they're more like open to follow you. Giving
fans more credit than just like, they're obviously not idiots. So it's like people being like, okay, that's how he felt at the time.
Mm-hmm.
That's true.
Yeah, we all evolve.
That's a good point. Because I think a lot of times it's easy to assume that people won't really follow, but like people are intelligent.
Yeah.
And listeners who are already seeking out your music are emotionally intelligent listeners, or they wouldn't like your music, you know? So it's, that's a good point.
And I'm also hoping that they realize that I don't want to be sad all the time, you know? So like, I don't want to have to make another album like I just made. I like hope I never have to, you know? So I just, I do think that fans will like grow with you. That's the hope. Yeah.
That's true. And it does, in making an album like this, it's almost like it's more assurance that you won't have to, because part of getting it out is so much of the healing. I would like, I guess, what specific ways would you say that the making of it or the releasing of it helped you heal in that you weren't expecting?
That's a good question. I think finishing it up, I think, was the best thing, because while I was making it, I was like going through it. Because all I was doing was, I mean, you know, I'm writing, so I'm already in the state of mind, and then I'm writing about it. And then I'm recording it, you know, and I did all the mixing, all the, yada, yada. So I'm listening to these lines like over and over and over and over again. So it's, it was like terrible, like making it, but
it was actual hell.
And so, but afterwards, kind of like what I was saying earlier, to be able to tell the whole side of the story to everyone, you know, and everyone, all my friends and family, hearing about it, and then just being like, okay, it's out. I'm no longer alone in this. Everyone knows what's going on, you know. That helped the most. And then I also have found that performing it helps as well, just because I'm still like feeling it.
Yeah, do you feel like every performance of it helps you heal even more, or does it feel like it kind of reopens wounds?
That's something I'm still trying to figure out, because I do feel very sad when I'm performing it. You know, like I put myself, like I'm right back, like mentally I'm right back, pacing in my room, you know? And so it's too soon to tell. Yeah. But I'm hoping that it's going to help, you know?
And I think it's probably a good thing that you're not, you know, if you were under a major label and mainstream artist and they encouraged this album and then it came out, it's like you might be forced to tour with this album for longer than you want to. Yeah. And then you wouldn't be able to be like, okay, this is no longer, I don't identify as this version of myself anymore. But like, I'm ready to move on to, you don't have anyone telling you like, no, you have to do another tour with this album. Because that would be so rough with this level of emotional output.
And that's another thing that I'm trying to figure out for the future, how to balance it, because when I do shows now, I just perform the album, you know, all the way through, just so you can like see it. But I'm trying to, like, number one, it's so sad. Like, it's sad every time. And so I just hate bumming people out and bumming myself out over and over again. So I'm trying to figure out how to like balance the new songs that won't be in this lane, but to also give you, it's right now it's a juggling act that I'm still trying to figure out, because I don't want to perform this all the way through forever. Right. But
sprinkle them
in. I do want to do it, you know? So it's weird, and I'm still trying to figure that out myself. Yeah.
And how has the feedback been? I know you said like there's been cry sessions with family and friends, but has there been any reactions to your album, whether, because you said you're on TikTok and you get like new fans that way, have you had reactions to your album that surprised you so far?
Yes. I had texts and calls from old friends that I've never spoken to
Wow.
in however long, years, you know. I got video messages of people I didn't even know, and they were like crying.
Wow.
I've gotten voice notes. I saved them because they've meant so much to me, but voice notes of people crying, like, I just listened to your album. They're like breaking down crying. It's like, it's very powerful to me. Like, I love it. It makes me, I feel like I'm helping people, which is amazing. I feel like I made something good, which is amazing. And it's just one of those things. I want as many people to hear it as possible, because I have noticed either you really like it or you don't like it.
Polarizing.
Yeah. And so it's just one of those things where it's like, either you need to hear this, or like you're just not in
ready.
a place where you need to hear this.
Or you're not healing.
Yeah, exactly. And
that's interesting.
And so it's I'm excited for the future, because I really do love the feedback that I do get.
That's beautiful.
Yeah. I wonder if that's like a lot of pressure on top of the pressure you already put on yourself. Like, I am connecting and I am affecting these people to this extent. Like, that's so powerful.
It is.
So it's like, this kind of is a piggyback off my last question. Like, I wonder if that even adds to when you're writing your next project, of just like, I'm writing for me, but like, I'm writing for this person that sent me this video message.
Right.
Like, I don't want to let this person not down, but like, I want to continue lifting them up at the same time. Like, there has to be, not
absolutely,
has to be, but like some sort of, I guess. Yeah.
I would say pressure, for sure. I do feel it. To be honest, in everything I do in life now, like what I post, whenever I'm out, it's one of those things where it's like, I feel like someone could be watching, you know, and I just want to like be my best self for whoever is watching, so that they can, you know, see that. And it's a pressure that 100% I'm putting on myself, because no one's watching me, you know what I'm saying? But it's one of those things where I just want to make sure that if someone does look, I'm doing something that I'm proud of, you know?
Right. There's a quote that I've always loved, and it just says, "Be as you wish to seem."
Okay.
And I always love that, because it's so easy for us to be like you imagine how you would want to come across, not even to other people, but like you looking in at yourself. Like, how do I want to seem? I want to seem like I take care of myself, or like and then just be that.
Yeah. And that I'm not just one thing too, which I was going to say, because like your social media, you're so like exuberant. Yeah. Like happy, like, and then, so you get like this versatile, you know,
just from your social media. So I don't feel like
and your music on top of that, like you're just not one thing. So I feel like, fuck the box or whatever kind of pressure. Like, people are gonna love all of you. You know, they're gonna be a fan of all of you
because they already see that side of you. That's true. Even the album shows that one specific side, but then they follow you and you, like, your sense of humor is out. Everything's already out there already.
Yeah.
And is that something that's like conscious, like as a musician, to as far as branding goes? It's like, if my music is portraying this side of me, do I want my social media to portray like a completely different side, so people don't pigeonhole me?
That's very true. You're asking so many good questions, and so many of these questions are things I'm like trying to figure out myself. Because I do, because as we spoke about off mic, but like I'm on TikTok now, Christopher Leon Music, and I'm like, what I post on TikTok is wild. I'm posting everything on TikTok, and my Instagram, I'm trying to keep it like in theme and like cool, and so people look me up on Instagram, everything's like right there. But then I think, like, I used to not do that. I used to post everything, because
whatever
I
you
am
want.
all of these things. You know, I'm ridiculously goofy, and everything. So, I'm still trying to figure out the balance of trying to look professional while being yourself, while
and then asking yourself the question, like, who am I trying to look this way for? Is it because it's a piece of who I am, which is cool, or is it because I think that people are going to think? It's like having to dissect where all of your intentions are coming from.
Yeah, I was just having this conversation yesterday with a friend of mine because I'm an actor, and like there's other actors that their Instagram is solely just, they'll post their every single audition that they, because it's mostly self tapes now. Every self tape will be posted on there, and I'm like, oh God. Or they'll just post, every picture's them on set, selfie with the camera in the back, or their stats on the year of what they booked, how many callbacks they had, and it's like intense networking pages.
Yeah.
And I'm like, do I want to do that? Like, is this really what I want to do?
Right.
Yeah.
It's kind of
For acting, does that, because for music, it's like you want to get your music out there. So if your music is out, but to post auditions you're at and stuff, does that do anything for you?
I don't know. I think it can help on some degree, depending on what casting directors want to see of you, because a lot of them will be like, I want to see your social media, not your website.
Oh,
This is where I'll actually see the real you.
Right.
But if the real you is you pretending to be other people in auditions, it's like, I don't know. You know what I mean? Because I just want to post like pictures with my friends, or like a fucking selfie where I'm feeling myself, and not necessarily like, no, Johnny, don't go. Like, you know what I mean? I don't know. But that's a whole other conversation about branding and as artists, that is just a never ending conversation because there's no right and no wrong.
And then as independent artists too, you are playing every role. Like you're your own agent, your own manager, your own label, your own PR, your own editor, your own marketing, your own editor, your own like sound engineer, your own
publicist,
literally everything. And so it's just like to wear a bunch of hats and to still be able to maintain and slip into like when you get to just be the artist, like when you're writing or you're recording, you're still like the engineer at the same time. But like, it's like hard to separate those things. But well, I don't know if you felt this way, like in the creating of it, like you said, you're at home and you're just like going through it and writing. It's hard to go through it, but it's not hard to get it out and like create it like that. But then it's the aftermath of like, okay, now I want this to get out there. You have to put on all those other hats that like a label would have, like however many people under.
You have to learn TikTok.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. But so that takes a whole other level of dedication and skill. However, the question I have for you is unrelated to that. But I wanted to ask you if there was a level of validation, like hearing, and not in an egocentric way, but really just like, you are alone going through these things and you feel really alone, especially when you're depressed. It's just like, other people have gone through depression, but you're like, no, but I'm alone. Like it's just me.
Yeah.
And then to have these people send you voice messages and videos and people you don't know, did it validate your experience in a way that you didn't even necessarily know you needed? Like, did that help you heal to have people like relate and understand, and then you could kind of give yourself more empathy for how you felt?
Oh yeah.
That's a good question. I think my first level of validation was whenever I was working on this, it was all me. I was doing the production. It was me and my box. Me and all my personalities hanging out. And so I was making it and I was like, I think this sounds good, but I didn't know because only I hear it and only I'm working on it. So,
and it's all you're focusing on.
Yeah. And so I was very nervous that like, is this even tight?
Right.
And so, and I was like scared because I was like, if this isn't tight, like I know what I'm going through to make this, like, oh my God. And so I made it and then I started playing it for people. And then once I saw their reactions, I was like, oh, so it is like good. Okay.
Yeah.
And that was extremely validating. It gave me like, courage to keep, showing it to people, and to, finish it up and release it. And now that it's released, all of the people who are feeling it and telling me like how this affects their life and what they're going through and everything, it just, it put me in a role that I didn't know I was going to be.
Yeah.
And, because I'm doing a therapy session through the album and now I'm everyone's therapist and everyone's telling me like all their problems.
Yeah.
And one thing that's like intimidating about that is like, number one, I don't have all the answers.
You're like, I'm not the authority on these things in my own life.
And number two, a lot of people think that just because I made it, that like it's my past.
Over,
you know,
yeah.
it's done. It's over.
Right. Yeah,
you know,
yeah,
like
yeah.
I'm over it.
Yeah.
But that's not the case at all.
Oh, that's
I'm
interesting.
still very much,
Growing.
going through it. And so trying to like get out of it.
They're treating it like you released this a decade ago.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
You're like, it was 2 months ago.
Yeah, exactly.
That is
Still pretty
so
raw.
interesting too, because I'll listen to albums, and if I had the chance, or I guess the balls, to reach out to the artist that made it, where I'm just like so connecting with their lyrics. That's so true. You just want to connect and be like, I feel that way too. And I, when I was younger, this happened to me, but you're like, you don't realize the human being behind.
Right.
But you're like, no, I understand this person because that lyric,
And you
I
want them
felt that.
to know that it affected you in such a positive way.
But you don't want to trauma dump
Right.
at the same time, because that is so much to put on you while you're still going through your stuff. That's something I didn't even
people like
realize.
asking you advice and stuff, or just kind of just sharing.
Both.
Yeah.
Both. Yeah. And so all I can do is say, well, this is the similar situation that I was in, and this is how I handled it. And it was good or bad for this reason. So you maybe do it this way or don't do it this way,
Yeah.
And that's happened a lot. And it is nice. I mean, it really is nice to hear people like opening up.
Yeah.
Because like I was never opening up about anything. Because I was afraid that no one would like care or listen, or that I was alone in this, know, and hearing everyone else do it. It's like, oh, well, it's so much better to talk about what is going on. It's just so much better.
That's amazing to kind of think of it that way. It's like, yeah, it's a lot maybe you're throwing at me, but at the end of the day, I inspired you to talk.
Mm-hmm.
You might not have ever talked about that problem ever in your life. That might have just sat in you and festered and became something that was negative, but you did something so positive. So that's like a beautiful way to think about it.
And people, like the same way with therapy being so powerful, largely because you're talking to someone who doesn't know you and is not like in your immediate life, except for as your therapist. But like, if you have strangers reaching out to you like that, it's like they might feel like they can talk to you and they can't talk to anyone in their own life about it because you don't know them, but they know that you have empathy and you've gone through these things. So it's like you kind of unknowingly put yourself in this role.
Yeah.
That So can you help me with something I'm going through right now?
Yeah.
Exactly. But no, it's a role I didn't know I was going to be thrown into. But but now that I'm here, I'm like, I like it.
Yeah.
So
and it's a kind of a wide open lane. I feel like in music, I think pretty wide open. There's not a lot of that type of content right now.
Yeah.
Even if there's like a single here or there that comes out, but a full album that just deals with stuff and like digs and keeps digging and is not just like a little song that dips your toe into depression and then runs away.
Yeah.
It's like, no, you're going to be submerged into like reality. So I think, to capitalize on that, because that's people need it.
Yeah.
You needed it, obviously.
Yeah. I'm excited for the next
the
next thing.
That's what we're going to ask next. Like, this might be a big question. So like, what is next? Like what is on the horizons next, as far as like what you're writing, performing, all of it? Like, what can we expect?
So for the longest time I've had writer's block, idea block, everything block. I can't think of anything.
Album.
And also just a lack of desire to like keep making more stuff. You know,
it's like a natural cycle.
Yeah,
after
super.
putting that much out, it's like it's gonna shut down for a minute. Like you have to close up shop
I'm
for a
still
second.
like gathering my energy back. So nothing. I have ideas for my next project, but I haven't even, like I said, I'm very intimidated by it, so I haven't even started yet. But for right now, my biggest thing is, like I said, I want as many performances as I can. I want to perform this for as many people as I can. And I would like to start collaborating again, because I feel like I just need to be with other people right now, because I've been by myself
Yeah.
for too long, and my ideas aren't bouncing off of me anymore.
Right.
You know,
Yeah,
so,
artists need that community to feed off, because we were like mosquitoes. We need to feed off the energy of our peers, like because once we're alone, like we can create some good shit on our own, but like there's nothing like community and reaching out and connecting one-on-one.
Yeah.
It's just another level, and the energy and the creative juices that flow after that is like unmatched.
And then speaking of that, you have a show coming up.
yes.
March 13th.
March 13th.
And Universal Bar and Grill in North Hollywood. So LA people, show up.
Or non-LA people, fly out.
Yeah.
Come on now.
True. Show up. Any other, so that for sure. And that'll be, we don't have a time yet, right? We're going to promote it all on the page,
but if you're coming, be there by 7. Universal Bar and Grill.
do it. If you're coming, be there at 2 p.m.
Camp out.
7 drink minimum.
We want you wasted. You're going to be feeling a lot
God,
of
all
things.
these people like drunk, crying, listening to it.
That was the best. That was the best.
So true. Turn the lights down. But yeah, I encourage everybody to go, because I just saw you perform. It was like 2 songs, I think, like before this album came out, and you have a way of emoting on stage that is just to watch this album be performed. I cannot wait. So
Thank you.
Yeah, congratulations.
Thank you very much.
And like socials at Christopher Leon
Music.
Christopher Leon Music.
Same for TikTok as well.
Mm-hmm.
So go follow, please.
And wherever you listen to music on, Christopher Leon.
Yes.
Where All Healing is the album.
All streaming platforms. Yeah. We are all healing. The merch. As you can see.
Oh, yeah.
We got some hoodies. We got some hats. You know, everything. You can find
so
that
good.
on my Instagram. And there's also ChristopherLeonMusic.com is the website.
And this is like quality embroidery. I don't know if you guys can see it. This isn't some screen printed shit. This is like some real embroidered shit.
Yeah, it's good.
So yeah, check it out. All streaming platforms. Go to his Instagram. Come to the show. And all future shows. I know you'll be posting on there and everything. So
absolutely,
stay tuned. Thank you so much.
Thank you, ladies, so much.
Yeah,
Thank you.
of course.
Thank you.
And you can follow us at the SOS Pod on Instagram, Twitter. Again, we're on YouTube. I hope you've been watching this, because we're live,
Because Alyssa's
people.
sweatshirt is on point.
I'm hot, but like it's worth it. But yeah, SOS Molly and Alyssa on YouTube. And then, we're on Spotify as well. Wherever you find your podcast, we're there. Apple Podcasts, Google, Spotify, we're there. And rate and review us, because it helps us reach more people.
Yes. Please.
5 stars.
And thank you. Yes, it must be 5 stars. I'm Molly Cottrell.
I'm Alyssa Rosano.
And here's the Turning Meltdown
into Magic.